Assalamu alaikum. If you spend any time online looking for home education advice, you've probably noticed that social media has split the community into two very loud, very extreme camps. On one side, you have the free range, ultra crunchy mums who talk exclusively about the importance of play and letting the child take the lead. But if you consume their content for too long, there is a subtle undercurrent of guilt. The heavy implication that if you introduce any formal structure or academics, you are somehow denying your child their childhood. Then if you scroll a bit further, you hit the other camp. This side advocates for a more rigid, highly structured, bookish approach. They have immaculate colour-coded schedules, and their message is just as intense. And if you aren't hitting every academic benchmark right on time, you are essentially guilty of educational neglect. There is almost zero space for intelligent, nuanced dialogue on social media about this. In fact, the platforms intentionally push for division because extreme views get more clicks, more engagement, and more eyes. So it's no wonder you're feeling a little confused, guilty, or completely paralysed about how to actually get anything done in your homeschool. Recently, I received a message from a home educating mother that cut right through all of this, and it really resonated with my heart. She wrote, "The area of homeschooling that I need the most help with is creating a schedule where the flow of work is comfortable, yet it still meets our goals and requirements." First of all, Jazakallah khair for sending this in. If you're listening to this right now and nodding your head, please know you're not alone. It is the ultimate homeschooling tightrope, isn't it? We want the peaceful, loving home environment that honours childhood, not a stressful, tear-filled classroom, but we also have real goals for them and curricula to finish. And it is our responsibility to ensure that our children progress. So how do we marry the two? How do we find that middle path that flows beautifully but still gets the job done? Now, the reason that this middle path is so hard to find often is that the moment we actually try to sit down and get the structured work done, we run into a major roadblock: our child's focus. We plan a beautiful lesson, but within 5 minutes, our child is daydreaming, resisting, or just melting down. And in that moment of frustration, we feel forced into one of those social media extremes. We think we either have to become a rigid drill sergeant and force them through it, or give up entirely and become a completely free-range homeschooler. But if you feel like your child is struggling to stay focused, I want to give you some major reassurance. It isn't just you, and it isn't a failure in your scheduling. It's actually a massive societal shift. So recent data from here in the UK is staggering. A major study surveying primary school teachers in England revealed a massive 84% of educators believe children's attention spans are shorter than ever before. In fact, things have changed so drastically in modern classrooms that 1 in 5 teachers report that they now cut down their lesson activities to under 10 minutes just to keep the pupils from being completely tuned out. Educators point the finger directly at our ever-swiping digital culture, where young brains are conditioned by their fast-paced screens and instant rewards, that sitting down for a long traditional school lesson feels painfully boring to them. Their brains are being rewired to seek short bursts of stimulation, which often leads to daydreaming and restlessness and frustration when it's time to do their desk work. So how do we combat this modern attention crisis without causing tears at the kitchen table? Well, we don't do it by forcing them to sit for hours or fighting with them. We do it by working with them. And to do that, we can look at some incredible tools from the British educator Charlotte Mason, who famously argued that the lessons must be short, fresh, and varied to keep a child's mind truly alive. So today we're going to talk about the power of short lessons, the beauty of the morning basket, and the freedom of loop scheduling. So let's start with Charlotte Mason's secret weapon for keeping a schedule comfortable and yet highly effective, and that is short lessons. Isn't it fascinating that modern teachers here in the UK are cutting their activities down to under 10 minutes out of desperation? And yet, over a century ago, Charlotte Mason was already advocating for this exact strategy. When we think of academic progress, we often think about a child needing to sit at a table for, let's say, an hour of maths or 45 minutes of English lesson. But Charlotte Mason observed that a child's sustained, intense attention is a finite resource. In other words, they can only concentrate for so long. For younger children, ages 6 to 9, she advocated for lessons lasting just 10 to 15 minutes. For older children, 20 to 30 minutes. Now you might think, how can they possibly learn enough to progress in just 15 minutes? Well, here's the secret: habit training. When your child knows that the lesson is short, they give it their absolute undivided attention. They don't have time to dawdle or get tired or get bored even. A child who works with intense focus for 15 minutes will often accomplish more than a child who stares at a worksheet for an hour whinging about it. Think about how we operate as adults. You might have heard of Parkinson's law, the idea that work expands to fill the time we give it. So if you give yourself 3 hours to clean the kitchen, it will take you 3 hours. If you give yourself 30 minutes because the guests are arriving, you'll get it done in 30 minutes. So a child's brain works the same way. They see this massive, never-ending pile of work they need to do, and their brain slows down to stretch the work out. But if we use what modern productivity experts call the Pomodoro technique, this idea of working in short, intense bursts followed by a break, the brain sharpens and focuses. So by keeping your lessons short, you are essentially using a child-friendly Pomodoro timer. Think about it. By keeping lessons short, you also prevent burnout. And hopefully you preserve their love for learning. But how do we advance? How can your child possibly progress through these short lessons? Well, the key is consistency. You see, 15 minutes of focused maths 5 days a week adds up. It adds up to massive progress over the year. And I want you to think about that. A 45-minute lesson once or twice a week, which often ends in tears, compared to 15 minutes spread out 5 days a week. Which one is going to be more effective if you do that consistently? Okay, so maybe you're on board with these short lessons right now and you think this could be a good idea. You might be wondering, won't this be a bit too intense for my child to have these very short, intense lessons throughout the day? How would you transition between them without it feeling chaotic? So Charlotte Mason suggests that you alternate the type of thinking that you do between lessons. So for example, if you just did 15 minutes of maths, you don't want to move into anything too technical or too abstract. You might want to follow it up with something creative or physical, like crafts or a nature walk or reading some poetry. But this variation between lessons acts like a breath of fresh air for their brains. Now, before we dive into how to organise all these beautiful subjects without losing your mind, we're going to take a very quick break and listen to a home educating mother who joined my online homeschooling course, Launch Your Homeschool. Let's hear what she has to say.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Pei and my kids are 2, 4, and 5. I actually learned about Launch Your Homeschool around 2 years ago and immediately I enrolled as a student. I had no idea on how to go about homeschooling, and after enrolling, I benefited a lot from Dr. Gemma. I was actually following her in Instagram, YouTube, and her blogs, so I knew that it was worth the investment, and it certainly was. It was very, very detailed and yet straight to the point, and I really like that because I didn't have much time to study about it. She included not only aspects of homeschooling but also some home management and parenting strategies that are very, very beneficial in our journey. Aside from that, I really love the active community that she has built, and we continue to learn from her new master classes that she adds to her course. I got tons of values because even after 2 years of enrolling and investing, I still benefit and revisit the module several times.
Thank you so much, sister, for sharing that. If you have been thinking about homeschooling but you don't know where to start, Launch Your Homeschool can help. It is my online course for Muslim parents and it is opening this June for enrolment. Put your name on the waiting list. The link is right there in the show notes and you'll be emailed as soon as the doors open. Welcome back. So before the break, we looked at the data surrounding the modern attention span crisis, and we looked at Charlotte Mason's method of short, focused lessons and how that allows us to make steady academic progress without burning out. Now you might be asking, okay, if the lessons are short, does that mean we fit in more subjects in the day, like poetry, picture study, Quran, history, science? Well, maybe. But it's worth noting here that Charlotte Mason advised us to keep schoolwork and bookwork only to the mornings and allow the child to have the afternoon off for play and their own interests. But how would you fit that into your day without it feeling rushed? So this is where two brilliant scheduling tools come into play. These are not mentioned specifically by Charlotte Mason, but you will see them mentioned and advocated for in many experienced home educating families. The first of them is the morning basket and the second is loop scheduling. So let's talk about morning basket first. This is a practice where the whole family gathers at the start of the homeschool day to share in what Charlotte Mason called the feasts of education. So instead of everyone being scattered in their separate bedrooms, on their separate desks, in their separate books, immediately you start together with connection. And in a Muslim homeschool, this is the perfect time for your morning adhkar, for Quran recitation, maybe for a reading from the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You could add in a poem or read aloud a story or maybe do a quick artist study. But the morning basket warms everyone's brains up and it grounds their day in the remembrance of Allah. And it ensures that all those subjects that sometimes get neglected actually happen, and they happen comfortably before all the heavy individual work begins. If you want to know more about Morning Basket, I did a video years ago on YouTube that you can still find there. If you search up Our Muslim Homeschool Morning Basket on YouTube, you should be able to find it. And once your morning basket is done, how do you handle the rest of the subjects without feeling chained to the clock? So this is where loop scheduling comes in. So a traditional school schedule might say Tuesday, 10 a.m. history. And if you miss that slot because you had an appointment or you were running behind, it causes so much anxiety. But loop scheduling completely flips this. Instead of assigning a subject to a specific day and time, you create a list of subjects that you simply loop through in order. Imagine your loops look something like this. Number 1, history. Number 2, science. Number 3, geography. On Monday, you do your core subjects like maths or reading, and then you look at your loop and you see, great, we have time for one. Number 1, history. Great, check it off. On Tuesday, life happens. You have a dentist appointment that runs late, your toddler has a meltdown, and you only have time to do the core subjects with your children, and you don't even touch the loop. Wednesday, you look back at your loop again, and you don't stress out that you missed Tuesday. You simply pick up where you left off. Monday, you did history, so number 2 on the list was science. So Wednesday, you do science and you tick that off the list. And you see the absolute freedom this gives you because you're never behind. You simply pick up exactly where you left off. And it guarantees that you will progress through all the subjects comfortably in a natural flow, while also giving you some flexibility to handle real life. So loop scheduling, morning basket, creating a rhythm and a routine in your home, these are all subjects that we cover inside Launch Your Homeschool, my online homeschooling course. So dear sisters, meeting the educational goals for your children doesn't require rigid drill sergeant mentality. True academic advancement happens through quiet, consistent accumulation of small, faithful efforts. It's like that old saying, the little drops of water and the little grains of sand are eventually what make up the mighty ocean and the pleasant land. Cindy Rollins, a well-known homeschooling podcaster and author, she wrote in her memoir, "You are never going to have a lot of time, but you do have a little time here and a little time there. And those little times all add up to a life." Your homeschool day is made up of exactly that, little drops. And by using short lessons to build the habit of attention, grounding your morning in connection, and using loops to give your day some flexibility, you are dropping those little bits of beauty and knowledge into their buckets every single day. And over 10 or 12 years, those little drops add up to a magnificent education. You can achieve academic flow that also feels merciful and not like a burden. So to the sister who sent in that question, Jazakallah khair, may Allah bless your homeschooling journey and grant you ease, Ameen. Thank you all for listening. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a homeschooling friend who you think might need a little peace in their schedule today. And remember, if you want to know more about my online homeschooling course for Muslim parents, put your name on the waiting list. The link is in the show notes. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.